Hi, everyone, and welcome back. My guest today is performed for royalty, sung with the New York Pops at Carnegie Hall. Whether you know him from the Canadian Tenors, ROMANZA, or his unforgettable solo shows, Ken's journey is one of perseverance, passion, and bold leaps of faith. It's a real pleasure to welcome Ken Lavigne to the show. Thanks for coming down to the House of Owl in downtown Victoria.
Absolutely a pleasure to be here.
I know you had to drive. You live up island, so it wasn't that easy for you to get here. So I appreciate you taking the time.
I actually do a lot of my best thinking behind the wheel, so it was quite pleasant, and it was a lovely day. So
it's
it was
not
nice
a bad
to come
day.
down.
I was watching the weather because I knew you'd have to be driving down. And the weather forecast a few days ago wasn't that great for today. And I thought, oh, no. But turned out okay.
Yeah, no trouble at all.
Yeah. Let's get started. Ken, were you born in Victoria?
Yeah, born in Victoria, raised, I started out my life in Oak Bay. And then my parents moved out to the Western Communities, and that's where I grew up in the Colwood area.
Oh, okay, right. That area is certainly growing like unbelievable the last few years.
Yes, the last few years have been extremely explosive in terms of its growth, and it's both great to see that people are appreciating it for what it is, but a lot of the time when I drive past, I'm like, oh my gosh, the store that I used to go to is gone
now,
and I'm feeling very, very old, as you know, a lot of the parks and the mountains are being completely stripped and made way for a lot of these I guess multi-level housing units that is just we need so desperately, but at the same time it's kind of sad to see.
It is sad in a way, because when you're driving up the highway on the right, there used to be a mountain there with trees, and now it's all homes and houses. And
At first I felt really quite affronted by all of the change, and then I took a drive up there, which was like you couldn't do that before, and realized the view was absolutely spectacular.
Well, I guess it would be.
I'm a little torn that the mountain is gone, or it's not what it once was, but I suppose the view might be worth it. So we'll see. Time will tell.
I'll have to take a drive up there and take a look.
Yeah.
What was your earliest memory of falling in love with music?
Oh, that's a really good question, because I think if you were to ask my parents, I was always singing and making music, whether I was, tapping my feet or plunking on the piano that my parents had inherited from my grandmother. And so they, which was quite out of the ordinary, because they were not necessarily musically inclined or music lovers at all. My mom was a nurse. My father was a construction worker. I was a bit of an oddball in my family. So I was always singing. And I think, when in my early life, they thought maybe I was a bit weird. And so they tried to put me in hockey. But as I always say on stage, it didn't stick, which is a pretty bad dad pun. But at any rate, they were extremely supportive. And so my mom especially pushed me into like piano lessons. And so I got some theory and also voice lessons. And I remember it wasn't so much falling in love with music as it was falling in love with being on stage and making music.
Oh, interesting.
And I got bitten pretty hard when I got cast as a role. I was 9 years old, and a role in Oliver the musical, which I didn't know anything about musicals. I didn't know anything about anything really, but I just loved to sing. And so I sang the song. They cast me, and it opened my eyes to the fact that there were so many other delightful weirdos like me that loved music and had a song in their heart. And that really propelled me to think, actually, this is something I could do. I could actually make this work. And maybe I wasn't so shabby at it.
Yeah, right. And there were others doing the same thing and kind of build a little bit of a bond for sure. Yeah. So your parents weren't musicians then at all?
Not really. I think my mother would dabble with piano, and I would hear her play every once in a while.
Chopsticks or something?
Yeah. That's one of the few songs in my repertoire that just hasn't left me.
Yeah, right.
And but generally speaking, they were music lovers and very supportive of me, and so I developed from there. You know, as you go through your life and early life, and I was all for music, and then as a teenager, I was all about basketball and
Sure.
playing against Steve Nash, and realized that basketball might not be my thing.
Were you actually playing on the same team? Or
No,
against
I was
him?
playing against him.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I realized he could
this is
score.
not-
He
yeah.
had 72 different ways to score against you, and you just had no defense against him.
Yeah,
And he
right.
was such a superior player, and my dreams of becoming the next Michael Jordan were dashed. So,
Well, at least you learned at an early age. So
yeah.
yeah. So did you study, take lessons and stuff at the Victoria Conservatory then?
Well, I didn't really take any formal lessons and didn't really understand what that teacher-student relationship was truly about until I auditioned for the University of Victoria.
Oh, okay.
And into their music program. And again, I still didn't know what I was in for. The learning curve is pretty steep. I had done some preliminary rudiments in theory and stuff, so I thought I kind of knew it all. And I remember going to the audition, and there's this long underground subterranean hallway, and you go in to do your audition, and there was a line of sopranos that,
wow.
waiting and warming up and looking nervous. And I was like, oh, maybe I made the right choice here. Let's see what happens here. And so they would go in, and I would hear these glorious notes, and they were singing in like classical stuff I just had no concept of.
Right.
And I remember, asking one of them, it's like, wow, you sound amazing. Like, what was that you sang? I'm not familiar with it. And they would say something by Beethoven or Mozart, and I was like, who?
Really?
Like, I honestly didn't know. My choir teacher had coaxed me into it. My choir teacher at I went to St. Andrew's High School in Victoria here.
Oh, okay.
And she said, maybe you have a voice. Maybe you might want to go to the university. And let's face it, getting into music school might be your only shot because your grades aren't very hot right now. And I wasn't so academically inclined. Anyway, I remember thinking that I would just go in with the only two songs that I thought sounded classical-ish, Danny Boy and Oh Holy Night.
Oh, okay.
And from there, it was pretty steep trying to figure out, I had no idea that they expected me to sing in a language other than English.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was back when, the classical music realm was very, very serious. I was thinking about the three tenors, and someone gave me a CD of the three tenors, and the very first voice I heard on there was Luciano Pavarotti, and I'd never heard of him before.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is amazing. I was 19 years old. I was so excited, and I remember this is like a few months into my undergraduate degree, and I knocked on my teacher's door, and I'm like, have you heard of this guy?
Yeah, right. It's like,
he's amazing.
Yeah.
And
now, were you a tenor already at that
very
age?
much so. Yeah. I think as you mature, your voice starts to settle a little bit further downward, but I was very much a tenor back then, but I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So with the conservatory, you didn't do very much then at the conservatory?
Well, after I finished up at the University of Victoria, I realized that I had a really good start, but there was something that wasn't clicking. And so I was talking to some friends of mine saying, I'm not really sure. Something's not working. My voice isn't right. I was leaving lessons feeling a little bit hoarse, and they said, you should try. There's this wonderful gal at the Conservatory of Music. Her name is Selena James, and you might want to have a lesson with her. So I booked a lesson with her, and I remember this vividly. She was a wonderful pianist. So I had like my most classical of classical songs prepared for her. I was going to blow her away, really impress her, because she has this huge pedigree of incredible singers. Benjamin Butterfield, Richard Margeson, like these were like the top guys at the time, tenors, classical tenors. And I remember I was singing so hard, and it was sort of like I was gripping something, like I was just like white knuckling my way through this aria. And she stopped halfway through. She said, well, that was very nice, Mr. Domingo. I'd like to hear from Mr. Ken Lavigne. right now. And I was like,
What? Yeah.
wait, you mean I don't have to try and sound like
Somebody else.
somebody else?
Right,
Like, what's
right.
going on? So it was like someone opened up the window and I could
Light bulb
just
moment,
be, I could just be myself.
Wow.
And she was really my guru for a long time. We rebuilt my voice from the ground up, and it was
Fantastic.
a long, arduous process, but it was so worth it.
Yeah. What a moment to be able to pinpoint it at that point, or it changed everything for you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is she still teaching in town? Or?
Well, no, she's died a few years ago, and she was, I thought, elderly when I met her, and she continued on like almost into her 90s teaching,
Wow.
and I would go and have lessons, and our lessons became more about chats and cups of tea, but she still had incredible ears and still had that, and she was a fabulous soprano herself.
Yeah, right.
Back in her day, and so unfortunately she's no longer with us, but
Did she live long enough to see the success that you achieved?
she did.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
And I was I think, for her it was always not necessarily about the success her students had, much more about the longevity of the voice. She was so concerned and valued having a technique that would support you not just next year and the year after, but 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. That was always her focus, is on the long game. And I think, I don't know if she's looking down on me right now. I have a feeling she has better things to do, but I would hope that she would feel happy with how things had turned out for me.
I'm quite sure she would be. Yeah. I got some notes that I made from online, so correct me if any of this is incorrect. But in 2004, you co-founded the Canadian Tenors. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was the inspiration behind forming that band? I guess it was probably your love of the other tenors, the three tenors? Or?
Oh, yeah. We idolized the three tenors, the original three, Luciano Pavarotti, Placido Domingo, and the other guy, Jose Carreras. And it was not necessarily my idea, because I sort of thought that this might not be the path for me, for the Canadian tenors. And I wasn't sure, because I was sort of feeling, well, I wanted to be taken seriously in the classical world, and these guys were doing crossover stuff. They were singing classical music to an audience and bringing it to an audience that had never heard classical tenor singing, really.
Right.
And I wasn't really sure how it would go over. And it wasn't necessarily just me that was co-founding it. It was myself and two other fellows, as well as a manager here in Victoria.
Okay.
And it was her first project, and it was our the three of us guys sort of major sort of gig that we were trying to put together.
Right.
And we just had no idea what we were starting. It was one of those things where we said, okay, well, let's have a show, and we'll rent the Royal Theatre. I don't know, we'll bootstrap it ourselves. Yeah. And we sold out.
Well, it really took off. Yeah,
it really took off. Yeah. People were hungry for it. And I remember the first show coming off stage after we'd sung like maybe 2 songs, and I said, okay, me and the guys are going to go backstage and have a collective heart attack, because none of us expected all of this to happen.
Right.
And we realized, I think we have something here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. So how many years were you in the Canadian Tenors?
We did that for a few years, and it was one of those things where things would go really well, and then we weren't really sure how to manage it. And so me and the original 3 said, you know what, I think maybe we need to do something else. And but the band, the Canadian Tenors, continued on with other fellas. So I did that for a few years, and then we formed another band called Romansza.
Romansza, I have that in my notes.
Yeah,
so.
And it was essentially the same thing under sort of like a different management, and that did quite well as well. I think there was a real hunger for that kind of music
Sure.
where we were trying to take something that for many people seems inaccessible and make it accessible to people.
Yeah. So Romansza, did it differ at all in style or dynamics, or pretty much the same thing?
Well, I think the focus was
Different voices, I guess.
yeah, different voices, and Romansza had a few different personality changes as well. But we all really enjoyed. What we really enjoyed was the onstage dynamic and the chemistry of the three of us guys. Like we always would say, we take the music seriously. We don't take ourselves very seriously, and because we kind of recognize that we are all just a bunch of Canadian goofballs, and we just like having fun, and we like making great music. And that combination seemed to be really appealing at the time.
Yeah, right. It's a very Canadian type thing, not taking ourselves too serious and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, there's always someone looking around the corner ready to take you down a peg and say, "Oh, you're so-and-so now, hey?" Yeah, right.
Well, you toured a lot all over the world, really, didn't you? So what lessons did you take away from that extensive touring?
Well, always go in prepared, but also expect that things are going to go sideways.
Yeah, right.
We wound up in China. Our instruments wound up in a different continent, we were at the Beijing Arts Center, and they handed us a bass that was in a box. They said, "Yeah, you put these together, right?"
Yeah, right.
It's like, what?
Oh, no.
My bass player was just like freaking out. And I think it's as much about the music as it is about the hang. When it comes to touring with musicians, and you've talked to a number of like excellent, iconic musicians here on this show, and they all say similar things. That's like, the bands come and go, but the friendships stay, and the ones that really stay are the ones that
become true friendships.
Yeah, true friendships, because there's a commonality there. And so when you get that chemistry, like that offstage chemistry is so important. Yeah. And I think that's kind of underestimated. If you wind up with a band full of prima donnas, you just know it's just going to be toxic in very, very short amount of time.
Yeah,
so
the lifespan won't be long.
Yeah. So the music will be great.
Yeah,
but,
right. Exactly, yeah. Now, your voice has been described as warm and agile. What's your daily vocal routine like to keep it in that kind of shape?
Yeah. Well, the thing that's keeping my voice in shape these days, in addition to like just regular warm-ups, is I do a lot of coaching. So I do a lot of vocal coaching online. Yeah. And for me, that warm-up phase is really, I warm up very quietly.
Well,
yeah,
right?
Very, very quietly. It takes time, and then when I get to that moment, there's sort of like a inflection point where you're like, okay, everything's greased up, everything's feeling natural. Now I can open up the voice and see where we are. I say this to my coaching clients, my students. I say to everyone, look, you wake up with a new voice every day. It always feels a little bit different.
Yeah, right.
So don't expect that something that came easily yesterday is going to be the same today.
Yeah.
And don't also expect that the thing that was so hard for you the day before is going to be as difficult as it is today. There's always this sort of give and take, ebb and flow. Yeah,
age has a factor on it. You're still very young, but
God bless you for saying that, sir. Thank you, Wayne.
Yeah,
you can invite me back anytime.
Okay.
And no matter what the traffic or the weather, I'll be here.
All right, that's good to know. Might take you up on that one. So how did it feel to go from concert stages to portraying the Elvis-inspired Pharaoh and Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat? What was that experience like?
So before we got in here, you said, is there anything you don't want to talk about? I had completely forgotten about Elvis. And
we can move on.
No. So it's okay. Honestly, it was a part of the show that I had started to incorporate some of my love for the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley,
right.
and how an untrained, unschooled voice could just feel so natural,
right.
and in many ways just change the world of rock and roll.
Didn't it? Yeah.
And I kind of, it was something that I really, really enjoyed. when I did that show, which ran for over 100 performances,
Wow.
I didn't realize what I was signing up for. Yeah. Actually, my biggest concern was not the vocals. That was so much fun. It was not the sort of whatever Elvis does, the hip movements and all the dance moves and stuff. It was actually staying in shape enough for all of the shows so that when I put on the costume, I didn't feel like Elvis from the 70s.
Yeah,
I was more like, Elvis from the 60s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what year did you decide to go solo, and what inspired that?
I think it was about 2008, 2007. I'd done so many great things with the Canadian Tenors, and I really adored those guys. But I felt there was something else that was calling me, and I wasn't really sure what. And so I sort of, my good friend who was with the Canadian Tenors said, when he decided to sort of like retire and pursue something else, he said it was sort of like I'd been part of an amazing banquet, and I was just full. And so I felt this need to push myself away from the table and explore some of the other rooms in the mansion, just to that's see.
An interesting way to put it.
Yeah, and just sort of see, like I'm not quitting. I'm just, refocusing my energy on something else. And so the solo concerts became something that were a challenge because I'd always relied on these other guys to help, keep the show flow going, and realizing, oh no, when you're the front man and you're the show,
all the eyes are on you, and any mistakes are obviously that's that guy.
Yeah, and that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Wayne, because so many musicians will talk about things going wrong on stage, and how you roll with it. It really depends on your experience level. Like, I think at some point I would have just been so thrown, and the rest of the performance would have felt so completely off if I made a mistake or if something went wrong. At this point, I think everything that could possibly go wrong has gone wrong for me on stage. And so I realized that, I survived all of those misadventures and mishaps. I think perhaps if something should go wrong in this one, I will live to see another day, and it will be fine. It will be totally fine.
Well, you get that through experience, obviously, and when a lot of things have gone wrong over the years, and you figure out how to fix it, it makes everything smoother for the next show.
Well, sometimes you can fix it. Like I was doing a show and the roof was leaking, and it was like I was like singing in the rain. And I did another show, and the amplifier or the stage monitor caught on fire.
Holy
and I was like, well, I can't fix
Not
that.
much you can do there.
Yeah. Well, like I said, just about everything you can name, the stuff that would go wrong. Feeling incredibly queasy and having to run off stage. Things that just are nightmare scenarios for musicians. Do you ever have one of those? When you're a musician, you have this persistent nightmare. It's like, the show's in 5 minutes. You got to get your costume. Come on, man. You got to get out there. And you're just like, you wake up in a cold sweat and be like, I don't even know what the show is. Don't worry, it's some Handel opera piece. And you're like, what? I'd never studied this before.
Yeah, exactly.
And that experience of having that nightmare situation, I think, has happened to me so many times that I kind of roll with it now. I say that now, but
Next gig, something goes wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll talk to you after that one. So it's every musician's dream to play Carnegie Hall, and you played with the New York Pops at Carnegie Hall in 2009. What was that experience like? It must have been absolutely thrilling, I would think.
Yeah, that was, I think that, what would you call it? A cornerstone moment or a keystone moment. It was one of those moments in my life where all of the things seemed to converge at the right time and the right place. And I was just so incredibly fortunate and blessed to be able to walk out onto that stage with all of those magnificent players behind me and present the concert that I've always wanted to do, with all of the songs that I'd been singing up to that point that really had carried me that far. So it was a big moment for me. I
would imagine, yeah.
I describe it that it was like one of those, it was like effervescent. Because our timeline was compressed, we had one rehearsal with the orchestra, and then we we did the show.
One rehearsal?
Yeah. So
Whoa.
one rehearsal was in the afternoon and the show was in the evening.
Wow.
And we had to run the entire show.
Yeah.
So I remember everyone was saying, save your voice. Don't worry. You just mark it. Just save your voice. And I'm like, are you joking me?
Yeah.
This is my dream. I'm going to soak up every moment. So I'm going to sing like there's no tomorrow. And I sang that whole dress rehearsal and I sang the whole concert and my voice felt as fresh as it had been as when I just stepped out on that stage. And there's something magical about that particular hall. There's a reason why it's still with us all these years, these many years later.
And has a reputation that it has.
Yeah. Right. There's something reverberant and really special. And so you can sing 2 concerts in there and feel like your voice is just as fresh as when you first stepped in there.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. That's an achievement that not a lot of people achieve.
Well, thank you, Wayne. Yeah,
you bet. Yeah. So you've released several solo albums. Is there one in particular that feels closest to your heart?
Yeah. Well, there's
probably a little hard. It's like children, it's like,
well,
I love all my children.
There's a few black sheep in there. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
But there was one album that took me a long time to put together, and it was a Christmas album called Comfort and Joy. It took me a few years to put together, and it was with the Vancouver Island Symphony. I recorded some tracks up island and some down here at the Royal Theatre.
Oh, nice.
And it was something that had taken on a life of its own, and it took me a couple of years to pull it all together. Right. And so it was a real labor of love, and bootstrapping it myself. It was something that I feel really, really proud of. And when I listen to it again, like this is quite a few years ago now, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago now, it still feels really fresh to me. And that's sort of, to me, I'm like, my voice felt good. Yeah. The orchestrations feel fresh and alive. There's nothing where I look back on and feel like, yeah, I wish I woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah, right.
And I can't always say that for my other recordings.
Well, most musicians, I think, when they record, I've even read that John Lennon has said the same thing, that he would redo everything he ever did, because you always hear things that go, I should have did this, should have done that. But totally. that can go on forever. So it's good that you found a place for that particular album to warm your heart. And Christmas is coming up too, folks. So that's an album you might want to look into. So you blend opera, pop, classic standards. How do you approach finding the right mix for your shows?
Whoa, that's a big question. It's a little bit of alchemy. Get out the Ouija board and figure out what's going to work. Ask the spirit world. I think, honestly, I try and always look at what is the audience experience going to be, and how can I help shape that?
Right.
I look at my perspective as a performer as saying I'm going to take the audience by the hand and I'm going to show them this incredible music, this wonderful repertoire, and describe every detail and contour of it, and I want to try and shape the whole evening so that every moment feels like there's something special for them.
Right.
Yeah. So the songs that I pick maybe aren't the most memorable or the most known songs, but they fit that particular theme and trying to
moment
in that moment. Yeah. You're also trying to feel like what's the vibe and where's the energy going and how do I want to shape that? So that's kind of my criteria.
Yeah, very good. Now your Valentine's show, I had a friend who saw it here in Victoria. It's called A Night at the Movies. So did you bring in a choir and a symphony and stuff for that, or part of the symphony?
Not the symphony.
No,
just I had my band and I had this incredible new choir from Vancouver called the Van City Harmony. And they're a vocal a cappella group of about 35, 40 singers. And they're all champions in their own sort of genre. So think barbershop quartets or Sweet Adelines. They have their own competitions. These are all incredible musicians. And so I was very fortunate to have them, and they were very excited by the repertoire that we were choosing. It was incredibly complex.
It was basically film music, wasn't it?
That's right,
brought to the spotlight, yeah. So what inspired you to create a show like that?
Well,
Quite different.
yeah, well, it turns out that like it was a collaboration with me and my old pal from the Canadian Tenor days.
Oh, okay.
So Philip Grant, he's now has gone off to get a PhD in industrial marketing and teaches at Langara.
Oh.
But he also has always had his love for music and singing. He's never left him.
Yeah.
And he had this dream of creating this choir, that something that would have a lasting impact on the musical scene in Vancouver.
Right.
And his whole modus operandi was like, how can I build exciting opportunities, memorable performances for the band, for the orchestra, for the choir.
Right.
And so he approached me and said, well, where should I go if I'm going to do an island tour, taking this group from Vancouver to Vancouver Island? And I said, oh, it won't be successful unless you have me. So I convinced him that this was a good idea, and we co-produced this.
Oh, great!
Yeah, that particular concert, which we remounted again in Vancouver, and it was a huge success. It was
huge. My friend and his wife, they were raving about. They loved it. So.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your holiday road shows. Are you still doing those in the winter time? And
well, the road show was a huge endeavor, and it was this idea. I don't know. I was maybe inspired a little bit by Stuart McLean's Vinyl Cafe and a little bit of like old-timey shows that would do stuff live to air. And that's how the genesis of the Radio Roadshow was. And so I had a trio of backup singers that would do vocal harmonies behind me, the ladies of Company B. And we would do this particular Christmas Radio Roadshow, which was a lot of fun. And it was kind of like a old-timey variety show.
Oh, okay, right.
So there'd be singing and dancing and a few little skits and an old silent movie that we had put together. And so that was a lot of fun, but it was kind of exhausting to put together. So I've the set is gone now. Right. And I just, when I do a Christmas show, I try and keep it as slim as possible so that I don't have as many headaches.
So do you have 2 Christmas albums? Or more? I think you have at least 2.
I have 2. I think I've got another one out there as well from when I was trying to fundraise to put on this concert at Carnegie Hall. It was my very first solo Christmas album. Right. And I think it was called Oh Night Divine. Might be out there somewhere. It is a little disheartening to find your albums in the thrift shops, but better the thrift shops than the garbage bins.
Totally, yeah. Well, you've performed on a lot of venues and grand stages. You've even performed for royalty. Of all of the collaborations and concerts, is there one that truly stands out? Because didn't you perform for Prince Charles, now King Charles, but... anything stand out in your
that was something that just sort of landed in my lap, and they they reached out to me from Government House.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Government House reached out to me and said, we have some royal visitors coming. Would you be able to sing? And I put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, oh yeah, Prince Charles is coming out. Now King Charles, but then Prince Charles. Yeah. And so I said, yeah, absolutely. That would be great. And I remember my son had been born about a month earlier before this event. And I thought, wouldn't this be a fabulous opportunity for the prince to meet my son?
Yeah, right.
And so I brought my wife and my son to the event. And we were told, and as we approached, by very large, burly security men, while I was welcome to be received by His Royal Highness, the baby was not.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. And I was like, well, I'm not performing then.
Yeah, really.
And my wife, who's very gracious, she just said, no, Ken, it's okay. I'll just be here downstairs with the coat check girls, and you go upstairs and meet His Royal Highness. And so I, as a consequence, I was the last one there to be in the receiving line. And I shook hands with His Royal Highness, and he looked at me and he said, so tell me, you look far too young and handsome to be a politician. And I said, well, thank you, Your Royal Highness. Actually, no, I'm an entertainer. I'm a singer. I'm going to be singing for you during dinner.
Yeah, right.
And he said, oh, lovely, excellent. And then lo and behold, there's my wife suddenly just appears beside me. And I said, oh, Your Royal Highness, please allow me to introduce my wife, Alice.
Was a baby there too?
No.
Oh.
No. And I was like kind of shocked.
Yeah.
And she curtsies and shakes his hand, and his Prince Charles, he says, we don't really say anything. And then one of the politician wives said, oh yes, this is Alice. She's simply lovely. She just loved to talk. And do you know, she just had a baby. And His Royal Highness, Prince Charles, was taken aback. Like, he stopped and his eyebrows went up, And I think that's the most expression I've ever seen him do. And because I think he was trying to piece it together, like, oh, she had just given birth like 5 minutes before and had managed to come up.
Yeah, right.
And at any rate, he regained his composure and said, oh, really? Tell me, did you have a little boy or a little girl? I said, a little boy. And he said, no, where's the little lad now? And my wife, without missing a beat, she said, oh, I just left him downstairs with the coat check girls.
Yeah, right.
And that was one of those moments where the humanity really came through. And we had a lovely conversation. He talked to me about raising boys and how important it is to bond with them early. And
nice moment.
And it was I was like, wow, this guy has been on tour all the way across Canada. This is his last tour, and he's taken time out to actually make a real human connection with me. And and I'm sure he does that with just about everyone he meets. And I was like, I have a really hard time going out after each concert and trying to make an authentic connection. I was like, this guy's got it down to a T. I was like, I respect that. That's really tough. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, you've worked with a lot of different people. You've worked with David Foster, another Victorian, I might add. What was it like working with him?
Working with him he was great. I actually really enjoyed his energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's so musical, and he loves music, and he loves singers in particular. Like he loves talented musicians, and he works with the best of the best. But he absolutely just adores working with singers, and it comes through just how tenderly he plays the piano when he's playing for singers, and how well he follows them. He's just so great. So performing with him has always been an absolute joy. Yeah. I remember the first time I met him, it was a chance encounter. He was doing a book tour for Hitman, which was his book that he released, I think 2008, 2009. And I happened to be in the chapters when he was doing the book launch. Oh, okay. And I was down there shopping with my kids. It was at Christmas time. And so he was talking about his book, and there was a grand piano there. And he started playing a little bit, and he said, do we have any questions from the crowd? And a lady, first question, who I didn't know, says, David Foster, I don't know if you know this, but Victoria's best tenor is here in the audience. Oh, wow. I think you two should meet. His name's Ken Lavigne.
Wow.
And he said, well, bring him on up here. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm super nervous. I'm not dressed at all.
Yeah,
right.
I
look like a total schlobe. And anyway, he said, hey, Ken, nice to meet you. Do you want to sing anything? I'm like, yeah, sure. And what do you want to sing? I said, well, how about Because We Believe? This is a song that he wrote for Andrea Bocelli. I knew it. He didn't know that. I knew it all the way down to the ground. I'd sung it for many years. And so he started to play, and I started to sing, and he's like, whoa.
Wow, fantastic. Wow.
Yeah. So that's how we met. And then a month later, he invited me down to LA to sing at a private event that he was hosting, and I was just like, whoa, this is incredible.
An experience. Right? Mm-hmm. Wow. Now, you live up island in Chemainus, is it?
Chemaniac.
Yeah. For over 20 years. How does a small town setting feed your creativity and influence your music?
Oh, I think it influences me by keeping me humble.
Is that right?
Yeah. Humility. It's very easy, I think, in this game to start thinking really elevated thoughts about who you are and what your role is, and being part of a small community and people just see it at the hardware store, the grocery store, and
Yeah.
and realize that I'm nobody. Maybe my voice and my singing has something special to offer, but me as a person,
Yeah.
I'm more than just that. And to the people that are there, I feel like keeps me humble, keeps me grounded for sure.
It's a beautiful city. I like going up there and walking around.
It's not a city.
No, I guess, yeah.
There's no traffic lights.
True.
I think you need to have at least one traffic light to be considered a city.
Yeah, I guess that's the wrong word, but small village.
There you go. That's closer.
You're a husband and a father of 3.
Mm-hmm.
With all of your touring and performing, how do you find balance between that and being a family man?
Well, I have a very supportive wife, and my kids have always been really happy that their dad was a musician, and I think that was a big for them. I think they would have always liked me at home, but I think they all understood that there was something else that I was doing, and that in many ways they were a part of it. I would, when they were younger, I would often include little anecdotes about, being a dad and on stage, and so they were always kind of a part of the show. And in many ways, I over the years I'd included them and had them up on stage with me, because the girls and my son, but the girls had just incredible voices, and our voices blend. There's something about family voices that there's a harmonic similarity that just it just sings and hits you in a different way when you have those 2 voices or 3 voices singing together. Yeah. You hear that in like the Beach Boys, for instance. There's just something really special about siblings and family members. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel. You've got a lot of videos on there, and does that keep you pretty busy as well? You've got a lot of viewers, I noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. So the YouTube channel is something that, it's not new right now, but I'm still pinching myself as to understand why it's working the way it is. So when I initially started the channel, it was just a vehicle for me to showcase some of my music. Mm-hmm. And then 2020 came, and then I had to sort of pivot like every other musician, and figure out, well, what the heck am I doing? I can't do any live shows. And that's how I defined myself for so many years. So I said, I don't know. A friend of mine, he said, you've got a lot of musical knowledge. Why don't you just do some reaction videos to people performing? Like, people enjoy that. I was like, really? What? Yeah. People like watching other people watch stuff? Yeah, I don't understand how that works. At any rate, I started the channel, or revamped it rather, and just started doing these reaction videos, and it blew up instantly. And I was just like, well, this is actually something that's really fascinating to me personally, and a bit of a challenge, getting it up in front of the camera and just being yourself for 20 minutes, a half hour, an hour sometimes. And that's not necessarily a position that I was very comfortable with. So I took it as a challenge, and it's something that I think has resonated with a lot of people, because they want to see someone in the business love something or like something on the same terms that they like it. I think that's what it is about that whole, because I get so many comments from people in the comments section saying, hey, you noticed this thing that I've always noticed. Thank you so much for that. Well,
it gives the public a chance to communicate with you too, a one-on-one, making comments like that. Yeah. I've watched some of them myself, and they're quite entertaining.
They have their moments. They have their moments. I usually just keep the camera running, and just whatever flows or comes out of my mouth goes onto the show, or goes onto the video. Sometimes, every once in a while, I get caught, and I don't know what to say. And it is that way with music. Sometimes you get overwhelmed, and you're like, I didn't expect to hear that, and I didn't expect to feel that. And sometimes those moments are really personal, and I urge myself not to edit those out, because I think that those are the most real human moments. That people, I guess,
shows you're human.
Shows that you're human. Yeah. Because nothing's scripted, I guess you could say.
Well, we're just about finished. Just a couple more questions. Again, I really appreciate you coming down and doing this, Ken. You've worn many hats: singer, producer, storyteller. Is there a new artistic direction or project on the horizon?
Yeah, right now I've been taking a little bit of a time off, I suppose, from doing a lot of touring
Oh, yeah.
to focus in on the vocal coaching side of things. But I've always had this idea in the back of my mind of producing a musical. It's been a bit on the back burner for the past 5 years or so. We were working on it quite a bit throughout COVID, and then some other things were pulling me away from that particular project. But it's at the point now where I have to either complete it and get it out there,
Yeah,
and so I
right.
don't have to think about it all the
Thinking
time.
about it, yeah.
So that would be the big project. That was the musical was something that I really wanted to bring about and make happen, and I think I need to take the opportunity while it's still here
Actually do it.
and actually do it. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to that one. So what would you advise a young singer who feels like they don't fit in, but they would know that they want to perform? Is there any advice you would give a up-and-comer?
Yeah. I think the consistent advice I would give to people who are studying music and wanting to on the fence about whether or not they want to go out there and do it is do it now, and do the biggest, most audacious, crazy thing you can think of. The stakes are unbelievably low. We think in our head that, oh my gosh, if I make a mistake on stage, I'll crash and burn, and then no one will like me, and I'll have no friends, and I'll die. There's this sort of descending spiral into oblivion, and that is so far from the truth.
Yeah.
And really just take those chances, because the thing is, so many of the people out there aren't taking those chances, and chances are like you're way more talented than you think you are.
Yeah, right.
And you have something to say, so just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Well, thanks again for coming down, Ken. I really appreciate it, and it was
pleasure,
fun
Wayne.
talking to you.
It was a great afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me.
You bet. And thank you, everyone who tuned in, and there are more episodes on the way, so stay tuned.